Welcome to the Survivalists Season 1 update release video. Our devs have been hard at work bringing you new content, updating old content, fixing bugs, and introducing quality of life features suggested by the community. We hope you enjoy what we have to offer. Sit back, relax, stay tuned for what's coming in this latest update. Cars are a very new addition to the server and continue to be a focus area of our development. Last update, we released a motorbike, tank, and tractor. As half expected, these Generation 1 cars had several quirks that made them difficult to use or not fun to bring along in roleplay. With this new update, cars have a flip action that will reset their positions correctly if you find your car upside down. Motorbikes are very fast, but become unstable and difficult to handle at high speeds, which can cause hilarious behavior for a unique RP experience. Tanks are mostly fixed and sport some serious armor and durability. Even head-on collisions seem to leave no mark. The tank is able to knock down trees, but too many can cause stalling, so use at your own risk. Rafts have been given some love this update, with several fixes and enhancements also seen in cars. You should find rafts to be far more stable when multiple people are riding, along with boarding from the water. Do note, boarding while the raft is moving is very difficult. Since rafts are updated, steamboat, lake steamer, and pirate ship will all boast the same stability changes, hopefully resulting in more activity on the water and possibly the Arctic. Speaking of the Arctic, the Bear Ghillie is now publicly craftable. Previously, it was only craftable by the tailor workbench and gated behind the profession. But now, any ghillie suit and a bear pelt will make this insulated ghillie that protects you from the harsh cold of the Arctic. What will you find out there? Tell us your story. Now for the fun stuff. The devs have always wanted to push the limits of the DayZ engine, and flying was our next target. Armor 3 had parachutes, so why didn't DayZ? Well, for starters, nobody has figured out how to make them. Until now. Survivalists, featuring Admiral's mods, would like to introduce parachutes to the players. The idea is fairly simple. Find a high enough spot, jump, wait until you hear the wind sound rushing past your ears and spam spacebar to deploy the parachute. Pressing WASD will move your character through the air, and shift, or sprint, will increase your acceleration towards the ground. Be careful when accelerating quickly while landing. Hard landings do have the ability to hurt, break your legs, and even kill your character. You might see in the future people flying on jetpacks. This proof of concept is a fun way of adding interesting things for event characters to demonstrate as the apocalyptic world begins to industrialize once again. Please do note that jetpacks will not be available to players given the rateability of this item. They're exclusively for events only, under the supervision of an admin. It has always been our goal to replace mass double armbands with our own version of double armband. In this clip, you'll be able to see the vanilla armband system being utilized, but as a double armband. Large bands where the shirts are worn, and small bands when the undershirt is visible. You will also notice several buttons on the side. This is an experiment on further customization of the armbands through a button on each arm. The placement of the buttons are subject to change as the community gives their feedback. As always, we love to hear your thoughts. Speaking of replacements, some new items coming with this update match much stuff pack existing items, like the safe. we added a replacement safe, as well as a larger safe that will eventually have an even larger version that will be large enough to hold a person or several people and be lockable, among other things. The observant might have also noticed the lack of the medieval indoor fireplace recently. This is because we replaced that existing fireplace with the same model and added a new indoor fireplace with 3 color variants. This allows us to have the most customizable control over all the models. Now, you can customize your home with several types of indoor fireplace, or request one that doesn't exist yet. Love to hear your feedback. In the last update, we released thrown item melee damage features, which cause unintended side effects of small items becoming incredibly lethal after ricocheting off of walls or colliding with the player multiple times. In this update, we fixed the issue of multiple collisions and rebalanced the damage for many items, so worms and small items are no longer lethal death sentences when thrown. A large change we made in this update pertains to the biohazard zones. Prior, the Sandy Bay and Asheville flowers had massive biozones due to mutants maintaining the important chemical reactions happening inside. Given the lapse in maintenance, the biozones around these flowers are severely reduced, such that a player can now walk past without much inconvenience. The goal of this change is to open up Sandy Bay once again as a transit pass, given that vehicles are more prominent modes of transportation. In the coming updates this season, mechanics will be introduced to make this type of biozone expansion and regression to be player-driven as well as real-time. Sleep and stamina are 2 other existing systems that are changing in a dramatic way, in our eyes for the better. Firstly, there is no more unlimited stamina. There is only lots of stamina. Sprinting will slowly decrease stamina and eventually deplete, causing the player to jog while waiting for the stamina to regenerate. Regeneration happens fairly quickly, but in cases of a chase, it might be just enough time for someone to catch up. The second major change is sleep, or rather sleepiness, will cause maximum stamina to be reduced as the player becomes more tired. The lowest maximum stamina can go is 25%, and tiredness starts to impact maximum stamina when the player is 25% tired or 75% rested. It's the same. Tiredness can be removed by lying down, and the rate at which the tiredness is removed depends on several factors such as day and night cycle, heat comfort, bedding, shelter, and several others. The average case is about 5 minutes to go from full tired to well rested if the conditions are correct. The combinations of these 2 changes is meant to encourage risk-reward scenarios when stamina is the key for player getting away from danger. In the future, tiredness will affect how steady your weapon is when aiming down the sights, as fatigue influences many aspects of player behavior. This next feature is for the Forge Masters out there. Firewood and wooden sticks provide decent fuel for the forge, but tend to be consumed too fast, and refueling with stock requires time, space, and energy. For some time, coal has been in the game but hardly utilized, until now. The farming hoe now has the ability to rake a fire with ashes for charcoal coke that can be further processed into usable coal. A few attempts at the fireplace will yield a stack of coal, which is enough to chemically react with the low oxygen environment of the forge workbench, and only the forge workbench. After some time, the coke will turn into coal chunks that can be used to fuel the forge for much longer durations. Some more changes related to metalsmithing is the anvil. This crafting workbench contains the slots needed for players to fill and use to solve the crafting puzzles for smithing weapons. An example shown here is the players filling several slots with materials and using a hammer to finalize the craft. Experienced metalsmiths will know exact quantities of metals for the most efficient craft, whereas the amateur metalsmith will use far more resources brute forcing the recipes. This is due to the nature of the anvil. It will consume all materials in the slots for a required craft. If a recipe requires 1 metal plate and you provide 5, it will consume all 5 metal plates. The goal for this is to allow all players to engage with the profession system while still allowing for more experienced, longer-term professionals to have the most efficient crafting yield, and in some cases of sold weapons, more profitable yield. The same crafting workbench changes have found a place with the tailor workbench as well. Originally, this bench created intermediate kits that became too bulky when fulfilling a large order or just wanting to experiment with different combinations. Now the tailor workbench focuses on having threads, pelts, and other ingredients attached in order for the final fabric pattern to be applied for sewing. We look forward to seeing how tailors fulfill the needs of survivors for looking their best, even in the worst of circumstances. This next edition is an ode to player suggestions. Through discussion, blood, sweat, and tears, we on the dev team present to you the hand plane. 2 craftable tools that allow players to generate more planks from wooden logs. The crude plane is a stone combined with firewood and yields between 1 and 2 planks. The metal hand plane is crafted with an iron ingot and firewood and yields 3 wooden planks per log. In the coming updates, we plan on adding sources of electricity to power table saws and even a sawmill if survivors can organize such an endeavor. A follow-up of having more planks is the ability to use them. In this update, exploration into our own snapping system for building yielded a fix for BPP snapping. You can now enable BPP snapping like before and snap to the sides of foundations. We appreciate you being patient while this feature was bugged. Another community-driven feature is improved melee weapon damage and durability. All crafted melee weapons now sport a higher damage per hit ratio, along with category of damage. Swords being proficient in causing bleeds, and maces being proficient in causing shock. The combination of higher damage and durability gives these weapons a better chance when competing against projectile weaponry. AI might react differently to these changes, so as always, let us know your feedback for improvement. An older system with a new and improved use is the Alchemy mortar and pestle. It is well known that this workbench is used to grind dry herbs into crushed powders for alchemical use such as medicines or tinctures, but a new avenue of profession is dye making. Any combination of crushed powder combined with a lab tube will result in a randomly yielded dye. An expert alchemist or dye maker will know more efficient combinations that make crafting in bulk more worth the time and for specific colors. A vial of dye can be combined with most clothing to display various options of recolored clothing. This dye system marks the beginning of reduced clothing variation spawns, as players can now turn any clothing into an existing retexture, which frees up loot spots for other more important things like nails. Most recolored clothing is a result of content creators within the community, identified by their Discord role. Special shout out to Chunky, Warwick, and most notably, Skylar Wolf. And we are incredibly grateful to have them make these retextures for the community to enjoy. We are always looking for more people who want to contribute, so feel free to let us know if you are interested. To close out this update announcement, the community has expressed interest in the world being more alive to their actions, and we absolutely agree with that sentiment. The past few weeks have given us time to think about mechanics and features we can add to help bolster the roleplay of players and give their characters reasons to feel something. The first of many things to be released in this spirit are cargo container Easter eggs. Every cargo container on the map that can be opened now has the potential to have a dynamic event spawn when opened. The chances are random and balanced to not be repetitive, and the goal here is to catch survivors off guard while they're out looting or moving through an area quickly. There are two types of container that you can encounter out in the wild currently. The first is a container that has been booby-trapped with an explosive. The second is a container filled with Zeds from a prior survivor, running and corralling them in and closing the door. In the coming weeks, you can expect to see several more improvements in these dynamic events as your suggestions help influence their direction. I know this was a lot of stuff, and thank you for bearing with us the whole time. This is only the surface of what we have planned for the community over the coming updates this season. We hope that you enjoy what we have to offer and look forward to your ideas and discussion in our Discord. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in game. Good luck, survivors.